The regular meeting of the Mishawaka Common Council for Monday, December 18th, 2023 will please come to order. Good evening. Those of you who are in attendance, we're happy to see you. If you would, please take a minute to check your cell phone to make sure that you have placed it on silent or vibrate. And for those of you participating remotely, we welcome you also. Members of the public participating remotely are asked to place their microphone on mute during the meeting with the exception of any public hearing. At the appropriate point in the meeting, I will invite the public to unmute their microphone for purposes of submitting any comments that they may wish to make one person at a time. All persons wishing to make public comments will be asked to first state their name and address for the record, and after completing the comment, members of the public are once again asked to place their microphone on mute. We thank all of you for your cooperation this evening. At this time, if you would, please join us in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Hazen?
Here.
Mr. Belovich?
Here.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Here.
Mr. Benicki?
Here.
Mr. Emmons?
Here.
Mrs. DeMade? Mr. Compton?
Here.
Mrs. Volker?
Here.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Here. Approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of December 4th, 2023. Are there any additions or corrections? Then hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as received from the clerk's office. Petitions, communications, remonstrance, and memorial.
Yes, Mr. President. We have a letter from the Board of Zoning Appeals regarding their recommendation from their December 12th, 2023 meeting. Honorable members, a regular meeting of the Mishawaka Board of Zoning Appeals was held on the above referenced date, at which time the following use variances were considered. Appeal number 2023-39, an appeal submitted by Mullen Associates Limited Partnership, Hobby Lobby, requesting a use variance for 5514 Grape Road to allow for four storage containers, subject to installing an 8-foot vinyl fence in a gray and providing landscaping, screening, mix of deciduous and evergreens from 20 foot south of the drive, a distance of 120 foot to the south, and 3 deciduous trees north of the internal drive. The board, with a vote of 4-0, recommended approval. This is signed by Donna Burkhart, Administrative Planner. We also have a letter from the City Plan Commission regarding their recommendations from their December 12th meeting. Honorable members, a regular meeting of the Mishawaka Plan Commission was held on the above referenced date, at which time the following petitions were considered. Petition number 23-25, a request submitted by Good Oil Company, Inc., requesting to rezone property at 411 West McKinley in Mishawaka from C1 General Commercial to C4 Automobile Oriented Commercial. The Commission, with a vote of 6-0, recommended approval. Petition number 2023-26, a request submitted by Felix Martinez and Bernadine Carez, requesting to rezone property at 617 East Grove Street from C1 General Commercial to R1 Single Family Residential. The Commission, with a vote of 6-0, recommended approval. This is signed by Donna Burkhart, Administrative Planner.
Thank you. This evening, we have no report of any special committee, so we'll move into ordinances on first reading.
Proposed ordinance number 2023-57, an ordinance amending Chapter 137 of the Municipal Code of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, as from time to time amended, commonly known as the Zoning Ordinance of 1966 of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is to rezone from C1 General Commercial to C4 Automobile Oriented, 411 West McKinley.
Proposed ordinance 2023-57 will be assigned to the Land Use Planning Committee.
Proposed ordinance number 2023-58, an ordinance amending Chapter 137 of the Municipal Code of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, is from time to time amended, commonly known as the Zoning Ordinance of 1966 of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is to rezone from C1 General Commercial to R1 Single Family Residential, 617 East Grove Street.
Proposed ordinance 2023-58 will be assigned to the Land Use Planning Committee.
Proposed ordinance number 2023-59, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana taxable economic development tax increment revenue bonds and approving and authorizing other actions in respect thereto in connection with the Grandview Phase 3 project.
Proposed ordinance 2023-59 will be assigned to the Budget and Finance Committee. Resolutions.
Resolution R 2023-28, a resolution of the Common Council, City of Mishawaka, Indiana, approving a petition of the Mishawaka Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 5514 Grape Road, Hobby Lobby. This is a use variance to allow four storage containers at that site.
Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing on proposed resolution 2023-28. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
I'm Wayne Spears, representing Hobby Lobby here tonight. Address is 6945 South 69th East Avenue, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about your request, sir?
Due to the unexpected volume of sales at the store, especially this time of year, it's become necessary that they have some additional storage, and so they're trying to do it in a way that it's screened, it's not visible, and not unattractive.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Benicki?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Spears. How long do you plan on using this? Is this just a short-term fix? Is this long-term?
Long-term, and that's why they're putting in the fence and the landscaping, so.
With it being long-term, wouldn't it be more secure even than just having storage-type units to build on to the back of that building?
I can't speak to that part. That would go into the Hobby Lobby Design and Development team, and right now, they're just wanting to do the container storage.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Yes, coming on with Mr. Benicki Ken, did they, when they applied for that, did they put any specific date rather than just
Mr.
forever?
Evans, if we can we defer on that? If you have a question
Oh,
for this
okay.
gentleman, why don't you pose
Okay.
it, and we can...
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. President. Do you have any idea how long that is to be there, those 4 trailers?
All they've indicated to me is that it would be indefinite.
Okay. I'm kind of like Mr. Benicki. I'd kind of like to have a little bit more on that.
Yeah.
Why we don't have something permanent if you're going to just have storage trade. And also, can you tell me what size are those going to be? Now I'll refer to Mr. Prince.
Why don't we see if you can hold that thought, Mr. Evans? Let's see if any other council people have questions
Okay.
for this gentleman, and then we'll summon Mr. Prince to the podium in a couple minutes. Mr. Compton?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Spears. The area you're fencing in, will it be big enough to hold more than 4 containers?
No,
So we're strictly holding to 4 containers.
correct.
Any further ones, you'll be back here.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm with the other council members. I'd much rather see a building there than container storage.
Sure.
But I know that's not your place. You're here just representing the client.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Sir, just a couple of follow-ups. I agree with my colleagues, although those questions are perspective. How long will the containers be there in large respect? I'd like to talk a little bit about the past. And the staff report that we have in front of us indicates that at least some evidence is in the record that as far back as November of 2022, there were 2 storage containers that were on site. And then that morphed, and then there was some change in the spring of 2023, and then it morphed into 4 currently today. So can you help me understand how these containers got on the site without, and things happen in life, I acknowledge that. I'm not going to make a federal case out of it, but I'm sure you can understand. Our preference would be for the approval to take place prior to the containers showing up on site. So can you help me understand the time frame here?
I can only speculate, but my history with Hobby Lobby is that probably the store manager was out of space and ordered some units to store more goods.
If you could, and what's done is done to a certain extent, but my hope would be that with this approval tonight, if in fact it's approved, that 4 remains 4, and that it's not going to become 6 because it's a matter of expediency, unless we're going to have some more conversation about that. And, I'm glad that Hobby Lobby is successful. Mrs. Sixenball will be mad at me if I make too much trouble for Hobby Lobby, that's for sure. But I'm sure you can understand, process is important to us and to the community. So if you could pass that message along to Hobby Lobby's management, I would appreciate it.
We'll do that.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone here with us this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak, beginning with Mr. Emmons? I believe you have some questions for Mr. Prince.
Yes. Mr. Prince?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. Ken Prince, the Director of Planning and Community Development for the city. To answer your question, yes, these are the approval that they are requesting would be in perpetuity. So they would be allowed to have those 4 trailers moving forward. Very similar to other proposals we received. Dunham's is a good example where they requested this for dealing with the peak times that they have product come in. And really, it's to avoid that ebb and flow of at what point do you need a building and do you not need a building. And our preference is always that they would build a building, but we're also realist in terms of the retail market, in terms of their needs and how they fluctuate over time. So I think definitively, if they were to propose, our first reaction to this was 4 is more than we've ever approved before. I think the most we've approved previously is 2. But that also meant the additional fencing on Town and Country. We just required fencing, but in our mind, the prominent visibility of this, even though it's at the loading dock, it's very visible along Douglas Road and also along Grape Road. So that's why we asked for the landscape screening, and not just in front of it, but because of your visibility along Grape, we wanted it along the North Drive, which is why we requested that additional landscaping. We felt it was a reasonable compromise, but that's how we ended up with our recommendation. Did that answer your question, Mr. Emmons?
Yes, it does, but it still disturbs me that they go ahead and put them in before it's approved.
Usually the store manager, as they identified it, I mean, it's not an excuse, but they aren't aware of the regulation. It requires us to flag it. And when the additional goes in, so they're allowed to bring trailers in and then pull them out. There is nothing, what they can't do is put it there on a permanent basis and use it as storage. So it takes us a while to figure out that we have a problem, and that's really how this evolved.
Are they flat on the ground, Ken, do you know?
They haven't been identified as being flat on the ground, yes. That they're offloaded, they're not a trailer.
Okay, so they're basically C-bands, basically.
That's a technical term I'm not familiar with, but they're a storage container in my world.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay, appreciate that, thank you.
of course.
Thank you. Mr. Benicki.
Thank you, Mr. Prince. So one question that I would have is, okay, let's say we approve this tonight, could we put a stipulation of, say, a time frame where we would review this in 1, 2, 3, 5 years to see if and how it's going, and if they continue to need them in 3 years, then obviously maybe it's not a temporary situation, it's more they either need to, and I realize they probably don't own that building, but.
Actually, I believe they do.
Do they? Okay.
It's different, it's subdivided differently, and the applicant can better
Well,
identify
just with
that.
that big plaza, I figured, but.
But the only thing I would stress is that either it's appropriate or it's not appropriate. So if we feel like there's a reason to identify it, you have the ability to put reasonable conditions on the property. But if we revisit it in 3 years and they continue to have the need and they continue to have 4 trailers out there, I'm not sure what the purpose would be to bring it back before the council, other than that you would have potentially the potential to deny it at that point, and to approve it now and to deny it later. I defer to you and to legal counsel on the merits of that, but that's That's your prerogative.
Okay, so even if we were to approve this today, could we in the future revoke this because all of a sudden now we got 5, we got 6, we noticed some funky things going on that haven't been approved? Similar to, I mean, there's just a little trust issue right now.
In my opinion, the only thing we could do is enforce it back to the 4 if it's approved, that we wouldn't be able to then go back and revoke. I know in other situations we have had that where they have fundamentally not complied, but if they can bring it back into compliance, which typically is what would happen, I believe that we wouldn't have an issue. It would be like any other zoning. We don't shut down a business because they have a violation. We correct the violation. It's typically how it works.
Okay, like you said, it's just because this is right on the road, you know?
Right.
Some of the others are kind of behind and screened off, so this is more of a front line type situation.
Correct. And there is 2 layers of buffer. So they have the fence immediately around it that will provide that immediate screening, and then what I would call the filtered buffer along the road in the entrance to provide that additional. This shopping center was built prior to our landscaping standards, so it has no landscaping to speak of along there. So we do believe that this landscaping will help the overall appearance of the center.
It scares me just a little bit, because I think that's supposed to be a right in, right out, that entranceway.
It is, but the pork chop site, hate to say it, never worked. People always drive around.
Oh,
there, so-
absolutely. I see
Right,
them
right.
going the wrong ways. But, so that in becomes a question is, you know, if we're going to put these trees and stuff, will that alter, you know, seeing cars coming
What I would call
northbound?
for lack of a better term, the illegal drive is the left in. And I don't believe the problem is with a left out because you can queue up to the signal at Indian
Oh, they
Ridge.
do it.
Well, okay, I haven't seen that. I've seen a ton of lefts in. I have not seen a whole lot of
Yeah.
lefts out because there are multiple ways to
Sure.
to make that trip, so.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Memolente.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Prince, for answering those questions. Did we also put it in perpetuity for the Big Lots, Dunhams, and the Dicks that we've allowed outdoor storage?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And then on the diagram, with the dotted line, is the plan for the fence to be placed in the grass area?
No, my understanding was the fencing were to be placed immediately in the parking lot area. I do see that revised graphic, but the original one submitted had it around the containers. That would be a good point to clarify with the applicant.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Compton.
Mr. Prince, is this, we pass this variance, it would be strictly applied to Hobby Lobby, and if they moved, this would go away?
Well, no, it remains with the property, but the question would be if another applicant, they would pick up and they would take the storage containers with them likely with any move.
Right.
And then for another retailer to bring it back, I don't know if they would even be aware of the variance that would have been received and if they would bring it back. But in terms of a right, the use variance runs with the property, it doesn't run with the applicant.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Prince?
Just got one more.
Mr. Evans?
Thank you, Mr. President. The 4 trailers, they say that Hobby Lobby says they need them because of expanded services and equipment, not equipment, but merchandise and everything like that.
Correct.
Say those trailers aren't utilized for a year, is that empty? Is there any timetable whether they have to be used or whether they can just sit empty forever?
I don't even know.
So the use variance would be for the placement of those trailers. We would never verify if they are
Whether
being
they're used or not.
Or not, correct.
Okay.
So they could remain there theoretically empty, but again, the point of that, I don't know what that would be. Theoretically, those containers have value. If they're not being used, I would assume they would be picked up and moved elsewhere.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Prince?
I do have one.
Mr. Panicki?
Thank you. One question I do have, and this is pertaining to taxes. When they build onto the building, obviously, there's additional taxes. With these
Correct.
temporary storage units, there's no taxes involved?
Now you're getting above my pay grade, but I would believe that the personal property is subject to tax, not It wouldn't be taxed as real estate, but it would be taxed in terms of personal property that they would be using for storage, as well as the containers theoretically are taxed at some point in time. I'm not sure quite how that works, but very much like your vehicle is taxed, I assume that the container would also be property that would have to be taxed at some level.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Prince? Ken, not so much a question, but a comment. I appreciate the effort that staff put into enhancing the screening for these. But for that, personally, I wouldn't even consider voting for it, except for the fact that we have a precedent as well. We've approved these in other locations, so there's a difference in degree and number here. But I do appreciate that additional screening, and my hope would be that if we receive these requests in the future, that we'll be as vigilant with regard to those screening issues as you have been in this instance. But thank you for that work.
Point taken, thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Prince? Thank you, sir. And we are still at the stage of questions and comments from the council. Any other? Mr. Benicki?
Thank you. If Mr. Spears could come back up and just confirm exactly where that fencing will be. Will it be attached to the building so that it follows that, or is this going to be at the street?
It is between the street and the building and the landscaping. There's about a 27-foot drive aisle that will remain for access to the south side of the store. So there is a bright blue trash compactor there now.
Yeah.
So it's about 10 feet to the west of that trash compactor. And that's where a couple of the containers will slide in between the fence and the compactor.
Okay, so the containers are not, because we have a diagram and it has a circle that shows where the compactor's at.
There is another diagram, I don't know where it's at, it has a little more detailed layout. It was in the planning report.
Please.
Just a question for IT, if they have a camera ability? If I can hand this to
He said yes.
Michael? Okay.
He gave a thumbs up. See it there, but not there.
So it's hard to see, but the dimension line, you see the 4 containers there with the compactor between them. The fence, as shown on this diagram, runs immediately adjacent to the containers that are closest to Grape Road.
Okay.
So that is my understanding of where the fence is. Obviously, they can't enclose that northern end, which is why we asked for the landscaping on that north side of the entry to provide a little filtered buffer to that view coming in there. But that's essentially what we understand the project to be.
Okay. Perfect. Much better, yeah, because we just had a little circle and it was not definitive, and I mean, if the fence is 20 feet away, what good's a fence? Okay, thank you, Mr. Spears.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Then hearing none, I will call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
The resolution passes 8-0.
Ordinances on second reading.
Proposed ordinance number 2023-54, an ordinance amending Chapter 137 of the Municipal Code of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, is from time to time amended, commonly known as the zoning ordinance of 1966 of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is to rezone from I-2 heavy industrial to C4 automobile-oriented commercial at 1213 East Jefferson Boulevard.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President. To the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Land Use Planning, to whom is referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2023-54, report that they have examined said matter and that their opinion should be adopted. This is signed by the committee members present, and I move forward for its acceptance.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments from the council? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We will now move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2023-54. Anyone wishing to speak with regard to 1213 East Jefferson Boulevard, if you would, please come forward to the podium and begin by stating your name and address for the record.
Hello, Grigor Petkov, 1315 Highland Village Drive, Mishawaka, Indiana.
And sir, could you summarize for us what your plan here is?
Okay, so is there a map that's attached to it? So I own the property, so I own Greg's Automotive, which is on the north side of the street, and I purchased the old Regios with the parking lot and also the lots to the west of that, all the way up to Merrifield. So I plan on annexing all of that frontage on Jefferson. For automotive purposes, the next step is going to be for me to submit a plan to deal with the building and also, tying all of that and bringing it up to code to make it look just like I did with the parking lot, just to the west of it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the council? Mr. Compton?
Mr. Petco, it's my district. I drive through there a lot. I appreciate what you're doing there.
Thank
It
you.
has really cleaned that up and starting to make that look more inviting as you're driving
Thank you.
into the city from the east. So I appreciate that, appreciate what you're doing. I know a lot of people miss Regios, and they're good food.
I do too.
But nothing is forever. And then there was a lot of question about what is going to happen to that, and how long is it going to sit empty and, just become dilapidated. Now we're seeing down the street a little farther from you with the
Troop Town, I think?
yeah, Troop Town, thank you. With Troop Town, that should really make this look a lot better in that whole entrance and something that sorely needs done. So thank you for taking that and taking that on and cleaning all that up.
Thank you, that means a lot.
Very much appreciated. Be anxious to see how that's going to look in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Compton. Other questions or comments? And sir, just to piggyback a little bit on what Mr. Compton said, I also appreciate what you've done and congratulate you on your success. My one word of caution, and that caution probably is overstating the case, but as you move further to the east and as you acquire these properties, there is a lot of good for the community that comes out of that. But as you become even closer in proximity to some of the neighbors, particularly those who
residential.
live on
Yep.
the north side of Stanley Street there, please continue to be a good neighbor. You always have been, but I think we're all sensitive to their world changing little by little as Jefferson's developed. So please keep that in mind if you can as you move forward. And,
Absolutely.
and since we have you here, any update on the move to the restaurant space on Mishawaka Avenue?
So far, so good.
All right, keep up the good work. We look forward to that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the council? Thank you, sir. I think we have exhausted our questions for you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone present this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalante?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksabaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move into privilege of the floor, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to speak with respect to non-agenda items under privilege of the floor.
Mr. President, members of council, I'm putting on another hat this evening. So I'm here, so Ken Prince, I live at 2301 Ridge Place in Mishawaka, Indiana. I also serve on the board of the food pantry, the Mishawaka Food Pantry. And we've done something different this year. We are holding a gala. So if you remember in previous years, this goes back pre-COVID, we did an annual Pantry of Plenty dinner right before Christmas. And now we've changed that. We're trying to change things up and gain more excitement. But on December 29th, we are holding a gala. So I want to make the public aware you still have time to purchase tickets. They are $60 a piece, which is expensive, but this is our major fundraiser a year, and it goes to a very good cause. So those that have interest, I'd recommend contacting Doris Portales, who is the Penn Township trustee. The Penn Township actually owns the building the food pantry runs in, and they are a great partner. So I just want to pass that information along and hopefully make it to Facebook where other people can view it and get that information. So thank you.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions for Mr. Prince? Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak under privilege of the floor? And that includes anyone participating remotely who may wish to speak under privilege of the floor. Thank you. There is no unfinished business of which I am aware, so we will move into new business.
Yes, Mr. President, we have Resolution R 2023-29, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, honoring Mike Belovich for service to the City of Mishawaka. Whereas the Honorable Mike Belovich was duly elected to the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, and whereas the Honorable Mike Belovich has faithfully discharged his duties as Common Councilman for the 2nd District. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, that the council, mayor, and clerk gratefully acknowledge the past 13 years of service rendered by Mr. Belovich on the Common Council. The council, mayor, and clerk publicly commend Mr. Belovich for his dedicated interest in the welfare of the City of Mishawaka and its citizens. The council, mayor, and clerk wish Mr. Belovich well as he leaves the Mishawaka Common Council and encourages him to continue serving on our community in the years ahead.
And Madam Clerk, why don't we go ahead and read the other resolutions as well, and then we'll take one vote on all three at the end.
Resolution number R 2023-30, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, honoring S. Michael Compton for service to the City of Mishawaka. Whereas the Honorable S. Michael Compton was duly elected to the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, and whereas the Honorable S. Michael Compton has faithfully discharged his duties as councilman for the 5th District. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, that the council, mayor, and clerk gratefully acknowledge the past 16 years of service rendered by Mr. Compton on the Common Council. The council, mayor, and clerk publicly commend Mr. Compton for his dedicated interest in the welfare of the City of Mishawaka and its citizens. The council, mayor, and clerk wish Mr. Compton well as he leaves the Mishawaka Common Council and encourage him to continue serving our community in the years to come. Resolution number R 2023-30, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, honoring, I'm sorry, this is, I was going to reread it. This is Resolution 2023-31. This is the regular meeting of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, honoring Maggie DeMaid for service to the City of Mishawaka. Whereas the Honorable Maggie DeMaid was duly elected to the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, and whereas the Honorable Maggie DeMaid has faithfully discharged her duties as councilwoman at large, now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, that the council, mayor, and clerk gratefully acknowledge the past 4 years of service rendered by Mrs. DeMaid on the Common Council. The council, mayor, and clerk publicly commend Mrs. DeMaid for her dedicated interest in the welfare of the City of Mishawaka and its citizens. The council, mayor, and clerk wish Mrs. DeMaid well as she leaves the Mishawaka Common Council and encourage her to continue serving our community in the years ahead.
Thank you. The record will reflect that we have a plaque for Mrs. DeMaid as well that we will make sure is delivered to her. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to be with us this evening, but let's have a round of applause for Councilwoman DeMaid as well. And at this time, we will open the floor to anyone else wishing to speak in favor of all three of the proposed resolutions. If you would, please come forward to the podium and begin by stating your name and address for the record.
Mr. President, Dave Wood, Mayor, here to publicly acknowledge the service of these three council members. You know, Mishawaka Public Service, I always say, is different. Here you serve your family, your friends, your neighbors, and you do so with a passion for your hometown. And when I look at these two right here in front of us, they have done an outstanding job of serving our hometown. When I think of their public service, they did it selflessly and passionately. And I think they can walk away knowing that they have left their city in a far better place than what they found. They serve their districts and at large. Really, the heart of it is representing the people who live here, our residents, and they did that. And not only did they do it, but they were very trusted in how they did it. And in many cases, you can call the city or any one of our offices, but they served in a way that people went to them. And when they went to them, they did so because they knew that they would, first of all, receive a compassionate ear, that they would receive honesty, and that they knew that they would go to bat for our residents. And there's no better public service than that. You can also, I think, take heart in walking away. One of the best things about serving Mishawaka is that you can point to what you've impacted. You can drive down the street, you can talk to your friends, your neighbors, your family as you're driving by, and you can tell stories about how you served and how you improved a neighborhood, how you have impacted a project, how something is there that wouldn't have been there without your support. That's public service at its heart. And I've served an awful long time with the two of you in particular. And we've been to a lot of meetings. We've been in a lot of discussions about how we can improve the city and its ordinances and services. And all along the way, you know, did we disagree from time to time? Absolutely. But we did it again respectfully. And you served selflessly. That's all we can ask for here. That's all our citizens can ask for. So you leave hard shoes to fill, but you also set a great example for public servants to follow. And like any good public servant who leaves, we try never to let them get away cleanly. So thanks to both of you for your willingness to continue to serve, as you both will serve on boards and commissions going forward, lending, again, your expertise to our citizens. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, but also on behalf of our citizens, I want to thank you because you are a class act. The only thing I have never known and didn't know, Mike, you and me go back a ways. I didn't know you were S Michael Compton. I'd love to know what that S stands for. But thank you for your service. I'm proud of both of you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If so, please come forward. Is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Then is there anyone with us this evening who wishes to speak in opposition, including Mrs. Compton, who undoubtedly has some things that she wants to say about Mr. Compton, maybe not in this setting? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? Mr. Compton.
Thank you, Greg. Samuel Michael Compton. I was named after both of my grandfathers. They were both Samuels. Really? They were both interesting characters. I hadn't really planned on saying this. I wanted to thank everybody, but where I came from is the story of America. My one grandfather was a coal miner, Southern Indiana. My mom talks about, she remembered when he came home and John L. Lewis had negotiated health care benefits for their family. And that always set with me, kind of drove me to do things. But there was an interesting side of Southern Indiana back then, and I'm sure my grandfather was a member of the Klan. That was what they did. My other grandfather, also a Samuel, immigrated here from Syria and was a Shiite Muslim. And here I am, the byproduct of these two men. And that only happens in America that I can think of. So that's enough on that. I want to thank all the council, the mayor, his staff. When I think about the 17 years I've set up here, I've been through quite a lot, personally and professionally. And there has been great support during all that time by a number of people up here. And it doesn't go unrecognized and unremembered by myself and my family. I wish you all service, good luck in the future. It's not a difficult job, but it has its moments. I wish the 3 new council members the best of luck, and if I can be of any help to any of you, I certainly am a phone call away. Mr. Belovich, I know this didn't end the way you'd like it to end, and I can appreciate that, and I, to a degree, feel bad about that, if you know what I mean. I have some empathy for that, let's say that. But you have been, your opinions, your thoughts, your viewpoints from your Marine service, your service at work, working in working in the type of work that you did was all helpful to us, and human resources, that's the word I was looking for, really brought a lot to the table. And you understood where I come from when I was talking about organized labor and, different things of that nature, of the workforce. So I thought we complemented each other in those areas. And then lastly, we do this, as the mayor said, for our families and our citizenry. And I couldn't have done this without the support of my wife. When I was a union representative and a city councilman, I was gone 4 nights a week, every week. And she never really complained too much. Yeah, there were times, but never really complained too much, and had as much of an interest in what I was doing as I did, which is important. Or I couldn't have done what I did and at least still be married. And I didn't want that to change. So I want to thank everyone. I am not going to go away. I'm not going to crawl under a rock, but I'm ready to be fully retired, and my time has come, and it's time for someone else. I'm going to miss the people. I'm not going to miss some of the circumstances. But like any time that I've left other jobs and such, you miss the people over time. But these people I get to see, so, and I will continue to see those folks. So from a kid who just was, in the back row, Mr. Kronwetter remembers me. I was just a long-haired 18-year-old kid that just wanted to be an electrician. That's all I wanted to do. And when I look back on what I've been able to do, I still have to pinch myself. This didn't really happen. But thank you all, and I will miss being here. Thank you very much.
Mr. Belovich?
Greg, thank you. The 13 years and 3 months that I've served on the council has been one of the greatest honors of my life. I served 30 years in the Marine Corps, active duty and reserves, and that was also something that was a great honor for me. But I think Mishawaka, over the years, we have been a very well-run city from the administration and the support that the council gave. And I think that over the years, our meetings in Mishawaka certainly haven't been as exciting as our city to the west. But one of the things that I really appreciate is as a group, we've worked well together. We haven't always agreed on all of the issues, but we've managed to resolve everything. And I think that Mishawaka has a great future ahead. I know the 4 elections that I ran in, I always appreciated the fact that, and I think across the city, we've had clean elections, and we've had a lot of integrity on this council, and I appreciate the kind words of the mayor tonight and his leadership for the city of Mishawaka. I also wanted to thank Greg. I did earlier this evening. Not knowing that we were going to have an opportunity to say goodbye and talk to this audience. But I also wanted to thank Greg for his tenure as president of this council. All of the meetings that I've participated in have been orderly and organized, and I think much of that credit goes to you, Greg. And again, I'm like Mike, I'm going to be hanging around on one of the commissions. I still want to help Mishawaka move forward. And again, I want to thank everybody that's here tonight.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mrs. Volker?
I don't have anything planned, but I was thinking about it earlier, and I feel like I'm losing 2 work husbands because I like to sit next to Mike and I, chit-chat back and forth, and sometimes we're busily looking things up on the computer trying to figure out where something is, and I've just really enjoyed that kind of give and take that we've had. And also, Mike, I've always appreciated your respect for whoever is coming up to talk, whether it's for or against something. You've always been very, very respectful, even if you didn't agree. You have been, and you've also, one of the other things I admired is the way that you could lead somebody to an answer that they may or may not want to give. Or admit. But anyway, I just wanted to appreciate that. And then, Mike, you and I have just spent lots of time on the phone over the years, over 12 years. And so I'm going to miss that a lot. But I know we'll see you, and just want to thank you both. You've been a great mentors to me and really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Benicki?
Thank you. I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to Mr. Compton, Mrs. DeMaig, Mr. Belovich. It's been an honor and a privilege working with all you guys. And, it's not goodbye forever. It's just till next time, and we all have each other's cell phones. So if there's anything that you need of us, by all means, feel free to reach out because we're always willing to help. That's open phone lines both ways. Thank you.
Mr. Emmons?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. President. It's been a pleasure and a joy working with both Mikes. I, along with Benicki, were on the board here before Mike came on. I've enjoyed sitting next to Mike for a number of years, chit-chatting during the meeting, catching up on things that either I missed or he missed, and serving on the wage and negotiations with Mike for a few years, and same thing with Mr. Compton. Both of them are very diligent on labor and on negotiations. They've been a privilege to work with. Paula, all my joy to you and that for the putting up with Mike and the same thing with Pat, putting up with Mike here. Without the wives, they're not successful. The wives make them successful because they have to come home and they have to have the shoulder to cry on sometimes. They have to have the shoulder to listen, and that's what wives are for. And I compliment both you and Pat, even though Pat's not here. So Mike, if you would extend that to Pat, that my appreciation to both of them for what they've done to each one of you and that. And again, it's been a privilege to service with you and look forward to working with you. I know Mike's going to serve on a committee, and Mike over here is going to serve on a committee, and we look forward to seeing that. And again, don't be a stranger, either one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emmons. Mr. Mammolenti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to echo some of the comments made by my colleagues and formally thank Ms. DeMade, Mr. Compton, and Mr. Belovich for your time. You know, I think the mayor had mentioned this isn't a hard job, but there are hard things within this job, and saying goodbye to your friends is definitely one of them. Every 4 years, thankfully, it only happens every 4 years, but you know, the great things that I appreciated most about you guys is once the election's over, it became a we, and the city of Mishawaka came first. So I appreciate always your regards and your thoughts for the city of Mishawaka. I want to also thank you both for being on the committee, on the wage committee. As Mr. Compton mentioned, Belovich, your experience in human resources were invaluable at the table and helped bring a different perspective and way to communicate with the other side of the table. And I know it's never easy, but you sure helped that process along. Same with you, Mike. Your experience with the union and negotiations, you know, I can't thank you guys enough for making that process as easy as possible. And just as the mayor had mentioned, you know, I hope you guys find value in driving throughout the city in years to come, knowing all the wonderful things that you guys did and had a part of. I know I do. But just thank you so much, and I look forward to chatting with you guys here in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mammolenti. Anyone else? Then I will add my thanks to both of you for not only your service here, but who you are as residents of the community. Between our colleagues and His Honor, they've hit the high points. But I've had the privilege of serving with more council colleagues than I think I can count. But I can say without any hesitation that I have never served with any better people than Mike Belovich and Mike Compton. And the similarities between the two always strike me. It's not just that the first names, the S aside, it's not just that the first names that we use are the same. It's those qualities of character that both of you evidence on a regular basis that really are consistent across the board. And it's been a pleasure to work with both of you. I feel like I'm a better person from having worked with you. I know the work of the council has been better, and the community is a better place for your years of service. So thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for who you are. Thank you to both your spouses, who are wonderful people as well, for their support of you. And I look forward to seeing what the next stage of both of your lives has to hold, because I'm confident that great things are still to come. Thank you very much. Anything else? Then at this point, I will call for the question with respect to all three resolutions.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen.
Yes.
Mr. Belovich.
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti.
Yes.
Mr. Benicki.
Yes.
Mr. Emmons.
Yes.
Mr. Compton.
Yes.
Mrs. Volker.
Yes.
Mr. Hixenbaugh.
Yes.
All three resolutions pass 8-0.
Is there any other new business to come before the council? And then if not, I will conclude by wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Hopefully, we all have a chance to be able to enjoy some time with family and friends over the holidays, and we look forward to seeing everyone in the new year. Reminder that at a prior council meeting, we changed the date of the first council meeting in January, so we'll be next convening here in the council chambers on January 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m. And if there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn would be in order. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.